Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Everybody.
Thank you,
You're
Joe.
welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Happy birthday, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know, I'm having trouble with one of my screens, but let's get started as soon as Carl puts up the,
Slides are up, Joe.
Joe disappeared.
Who deleted Joe?
Joe's gone.
No, I'm,
Yeah, Joe.
Joe Adriana.
Yeah.
Joe, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Joe A.
He's not even on the participants list, so he's totally disconnected.
He said he was having trouble. Let's see. I haven't seen it.
Let's have the pledge to the flag.
Bob, why don't you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the
of the
United
United States of America,
to the republic
for
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty,
and
justice for all.
Joe's trying to get back on. Joe, are you here?
Here he is. He just popped up.
Thank everybody for meeting this week. We'll see you again next week. And Joe will be giving the presentation.
All presentations.
Joe, we said,
Do we get a reduction on dues?
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Don Joe.
I see Joe. I see Joe on the participants list, but I don't hear him.
Yeah, he's muted. What is the red circle on the participants list, Steve?
Means you're a host.
Red circle. I don't see one.
Little dot, red dot. It's a host,
Little red dot to
co-host.
the left of the
Yeah,
microphone.
it's a co-host, and
Oh,
Yeah, right now Joe D is also a co-host.
yeah, I made Joe D a co-host for the.
Go to the next slide, Carl.
Yeah, Carl, you want to continue with it?
The next slide is Joe's. But Joe doesn't know anything about this. This information was provided to me by, I think it was David Kaplan, and I put it on. This is a new helpline. It's just been established. The mayor provided this in one of his press releases and provided it to the members in case they're having trouble. This might be the central source for information on vaccinations for people living in Stamford. So try that if all else has failed you.
Yeah. For those members that weren't on for the discussion period, I forwarded a email from the Stamford Senior Center, the first portion of which deals with getting in touch with necessary people for vaccination and all.
Guys, that number is the number that I use to get an appointment after being on the line for an hour and a half. So I'm not sure that you're going to get much help by calling that number.
Okay.
No,
Can
but
anybody
there's a
hear me?
website.
This is Joe. Can anybody hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
okay, Joe.
Okay, I'm on my iPad. For some reason, my computer froze up.
Yeah, on the Stamford vaccination helpline, that's the number to call to go to Stamford Hospital. And if you try and calling that, it ends up like somebody just heard waiting an hour, or it just tells you to disconnect and call later. So that really doesn't help you that much. But that's Stamford Hospital's.
Right, but they also
Not-
have the website on the email that I sent out.
Yeah.
Stanford
But-
Hospital is doing their own registration, not using the VAM system.
Yeah, they're using ZocDoc.
Right.
I end up
Stem
somehow-
Health.
This is
Stem
this is the number I
Health.
called. I was on for 49 minutes, but I got an appointment for my second vaccination, which
Yeah.
is coming up February 11th. So
Okay.
that's the number I used.
Yeah, so just for information, I ended up trying to get my second vaccine and couldn't get anything on the web, VAM's website. However, I kept checking back on each of the numbers that came up, the sites that came up on VAMs. And believe it or not, where CHC had nothing for a day and a half. Finally, one appointment opened up within the days that I needed for my second shot. So you just got to keep after it. And they're trying to make it a little more helpful. But this is basically this 300 number is for Stamford Hospital. It's not a really good helpline. And a lot of cases you get to run around going through different agencies, and you come back and they each give you the same phone number to call. That doesn't tell you anything. So
I got my first shot at Stamford Hospital, and they gave me an appointment for my second shot before I even left.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
I never had to call and make an appointment. They gave me one.
yeah, that again, depending upon where you get the first shot from, it's still it's still a work in progress. So let's hold that discussions on the vaccinations. You just got to try and get it whichever best way you can, and if you go into the VAMs, keep checking those sites that give the vaccines, and you got to make sure you get the right vaccine. If you take the Moderna, you want to stay with the Moderna. You can't switch Moderna and Pfizer. So, okay, moving on. I think my computer opened up, but I'm still on the iPad. Our speaker today is Elliot Sloyer. He started a Wheel It Forward, a new kind of library, and the library is lending medical devices as opposed to books. And people have used a hospital bed and had to get it, and they have no use for it. They turn it in to Wheel It Forward. And if somebody needs that item, they will lend it to them for the period of time. Usually these devices, wheelchairs and machines and whatever, don't get that much abusive use out of it, and it's available for anybody that might need it. So this should be an interesting discussion and talk about things that we may hopefully not need, but might end up needing. So moving forward, Stu?
Okay, good morning, guys. As you can see, on February 4th, Art Gottlieb is going to be talking about Charles Lindbergh. Gottlieb is a licensed clinical social worker and instructor of lifetime learners in Norwalk. He's a local historian on subjects of political military history, and he's going to tell us all about the life of Charles Lindbergh. February 11th, we have Rabbi J. Torav, happens to be the rabbi here in Stamford at Temple Sinai. And while COVID-19 is certainly bad, the necessity for moving forward into a virtual format hasn't been completely negative. We found the silver lining to do things in different ways. But one thing is clear, even after we're able, not everything is going to return to the way it was. So he's going to give us his view of what life is going to be like after COVID subsides and hopefully moves out of our lives. On the 18th, you have Bobby Valentine, probably needs no introduction. Please again, talk to your friends, your relatives, any guy you know, invite them to that session that day. You know, everyone likes to hear Bobby Valentine. He's always fun. He has always very amusing and had lots of stories. So again, let's try to use that as a recruiting time for Carl to get our membership up. And late change, February 25th, we had been talking about Mark Albertson, but now we're going to be having Lori Price back, and she'll be giving a talk on financial matters, probably just a general talk on finances. So that's the lineup for the next 4 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, Howie.
Good morning. Everybody in the club is going to get a PDF of this poster, and you're going to get some instructions and letter with it. You're going to get my email address. I would appreciate that if you send it to anyone by email, you also send the email to me. My email address will be on this PDF stuff you get. And if you got somebody you don't know how to contact and you have their email and you prefer not to, I would be glad to do it. And I would reference your name as a neighbor, a friend, cousin, whatever have you. Let me know what the relationship, if anything, is. So I will arrange with Steve to send this out probably in the next week to 10 days. But please, this is the way we're going to get members. And no members, no club. So we need everyone's help. Thank you.
I'm going to proceed without being introduced right now.
Go ahead, Ira.
I apologize for the interference on the screen. I have no clue as to how to eliminate it.
Don't use virtual background.
Yeah, I don't even know how that got on because I didn't intentionally do it. Anyway, first of all, there's a correction. I misunderstood Bill Munko. I'm sorry. I thought you had said that Jack Jablonski had been a member. And then I realized, and you corrected me, that he is a member. So my apologies for that.
No problem.
That's the only correction or addition that I have. Is there any other? If not, Joe, will you cast one vote of approval for everybody or disapproval?
No, I won't disapprove it. Excellent. Again, Ira, excellent job on the minutes. I know it's
Thank you.
a tedious job, but thank you for doing it and keep it up.
Okay.
Okay, 9:20 discussion groups. We had a great one this morning, led by Joe D on current events. On February 4th, Art Feldman will talk about the future of capitalism in the USA. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about that in the press these days. February 11th, Joe D comes back to talk about investing. The 18th, Bob Butke on technology. And Joe comes back on the 25th of February, updating us on current events again. So that's it on the 9:20. I need guys to get up a little earlier and get on because these are really good give and takes of discussions. Next slide, please. Yesterday's walk in the snow-covered trail took place. Franco stayed home, it looks like, but Carl, David, Jerry, and his wife Joan were the good explorers there, and they took the walk in Waveney Park. Next week, the walk is in Cove Island. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, and it's a great day to be out and about and, you know, socializing in person as you walk and get some exercise. So I encourage more people to do it. Hopefully I and my wife will be there next week. Next slide. As far as other events are concerned, we still have the fall picnic scheduled for September 23rd at Cove Island. Stu Madison is the chair. Mayor Martin will be the speaker. Stu, do you have anything to add?
Right now, this is all tentative. You know, the board had agreed on the 23rd. I thought I might be able to use last year's permit, but I spoke to the guy who issued it last year, and they're not going to allow me to reuse that permit. So I have to go through a whole application process. But I don't anticipate a problem with that. Although I noticed that the new form has some additional fees, which I hope we can get waived. So I'll be working on that. But right now, till 20, you know, pencil in the 23rd. That's the day.
What are the additional fees, Stu?
Like to use the electricity, to use a dumpster. On the old forms, there was no mention of a fee. The new form has a mention of a fee. So I'll be submitting the form today. I filled it out yesterday, the new form, and hopefully we'll get it done. Frank Fideli no longer does that job. It's a person, a woman in the permitting department now who's handling these things.
Is that Kim?
Yes, I think it was Kim. Yes, you know her. You know her?
Yeah, she's actually the one that's been handling it all the years. She worked for Frank.
Okay,
so she's like second in command there.
Okay. Yeah, I dealt with Frank last year, so
yeah. Now
we'll get it done.
Kim is good, and if any problems, let me know, and I'll talk to the director of operations.
Okay.
Or if anybody knows the mayor, I mean, the mayor is going to let us have it. We're you know, we're in the good groups.
I have a message on my screen. It says Hal Rosenbaum is trying to once control the screen. Is Hal? What's going on?
He's trying to control the screen.
I've declined it, but it came back on again.
He's probably just not familiar with how this works.
He's declined again.
Okay.
I've declined him. Okay.
Before we go over to Carl, other events are still on hold, but you know, we're tentatively thinking about playing golf, not formally as a group, but getting a group of foursomes together sometime when the weather warms up in March or April. But everything is on hold until we see what's happening. And that's going to be informal at Sterling Farms. And obviously, we have to wait till the weather thaws and the grounds thaw. But we'll talk about that as we go forward into February. So, and anybody has any other thoughts for an activity, please raise them by email to me. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay, Carl, you're on.
Okay. There's been a slight change in membership. We've had two people, one of whom really were inactive members, and now they've formally become inactive. So they've been removed from the regular member counting. And otherwise, there's no change in the membership numbers. For as far as the dues are concerned, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank personally on behalf of the officers on behalf of all the members, really everybody who's shown their faith and optimism in SMAS and paid their dues for 2021. It's been a very difficult 2020, and there's still a few more months of remote meetings to get through. Hopefully things will be better in the fall, and I'm just glad that so many people have paid their dues and sharing that optimism of the people participating today and mailing in their dues. I'd also like to say there's still members that haven't paid their dues. I thank those of you who have called those members and encouraged them to do so. Quite a few people, not quite a few, 5 or 6 people have sent their dues in this week as a result of your contacting them. And I'll be personally calling the remaining members who haven't been contacted personally by an SMAS member yet to encourage them to find out what their situation is as far as participating in our weekly Zoom meetings, and just to encourage them to continue being SMAS members and to be optimistic about the second half of this year.
Carl, Larry here. One of the members who had paid his dues told me his check hadn't been cashed yet. Is there any long delay cashing checks?
There is a delay because it involves me going over to delivering them to Brian McDermott. So I accumulated them for a while. I mean, I don't think I have anything more than about 2 weeks old, but
this was a much longer ago. So I'll send you an
cashed
email.
all the checks about a month ago.
They're not in Brian's.
From Carl.
You can give me the name and the number, Lisa, and I'll follow up with it. I did get one email from somebody who thought they had paid in the fall, and it turned out they didn't, and I sent them a response to that. But yeah, let me have the person's name, and I'll send them an email and confirm if in fact we received. I'll confirm it to him and apologize to him for the delay.
Okay, will do.
How we move back in that direction with these slides. Let's see. Okay, I will point out that because of these attempts we've made at contacting people, that anybody who still hasn't paid by January 31st, and it's probably a grace period of a couple of days there, will be subject to a $10 fine. And anybody who's arbitrarily decided not to pay their dues this year and you're joining in next year will still have to pay their 2021 dues before they can resume membership in 2022.
Okay, just a word on dues. Gentlemen, if you have not paid dues, and this is, I mean, I think I'm preaching to the choir for everybody that's online with us, but if you haven't paid your dues and you're watching this as a recording, you know, we reduced the fee because our costs for renting the use of the hall is not going to be with us at least through the first half of the year. And we're doing everything we can to not to do this as a money-making proposition, but we still have to, you know, do things, and there are a lot of fixed costs, insurance policies, et cetera, that we have to pay. So please submit the dues. And as a courtesy, if you do not intend to stay with the organization, please send Carl an email so that we don't have to go after you and dun you. If you are deciding that you want to leave and not be a member anymore, do the courtesy of informing the membership director, Carl, of your wishes. It's frustrating for us and for Carl to have to go after everybody to pay these dues. And so with that said, we're doing everything. We're trying different ways. We sent a letter out outlining our position. So that's it for on dues. David?
Okay, thank you. So for fellowship, I think we've covered COVID-19 pretty well. So let's move on to the next slide. The members here do appreciate your calls. We've added John Jablonski, Bill Munko's uncle, to the slide here. I called last night, and yeah, John genuinely would like to receive calls from members. So do call if you have a chance. And as before, if you know of other members who would like contacts, let me know. Next slide. Carl, go ahead and move on. There you go. So also, again, if you know of individuals who are in extended care or short care facilities, let me know there as well so that we can reach out and talk to them. So does anyone have any good news to report?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Stu.
Just I am, as of yesterday, out of my quarantine period, so I can be back in public now as long as I wear a mask.
Well, that's terrific. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you.
I think I froze up again.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, Dick.
Yep.
I think my computer froze up again.
Okay,
Working fine, Joe.
you're fine, Joe.
We can hear you, Dick.
Good.
The heat on.
All right. The information's on the screen about our March 3rd book. And it's going to be quite a change from the book on Churchill, which we discussed yesterday. And Churchill was an incredible guy. I think he impressed every one of us who read the book. And the book we decided to go after, The Kingdom of Ice, is American Axis by Max Wallace, which we will discuss in May, early May. I'll set that date and let everybody know. But that's about Lindbergh and Henry Ford, both icons in some respects. And in this book, the focus is not on that aspect of their lives, but the fact that they were really almost fellow travelers with the Nazis. So that should be an interesting book. So that's it. Thank you.
Are there any items for discussion? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear me, but I can't see anything.
I can see you and hear you.
We see you, yeah.
You haven't been impeached.
I don't know. Okay. All right. So any items for discussion? And Steve, you want to call on?
What's that, Joe? Joe,
Lost
you lost, we lost him again.
Oops.
Alan, you have a joke?
I do.
Proceed.
At least I'm calling it a joke. Two scientists walk into a bar, and one says, "I'll have an H2O." The other one says, "I'll have an H2O too." And so the bartender says, "Why would you want hydrogen peroxide?"
God. That's for the chemists amongst us.
Yes.
Joe's trying to get back in.
Let him get it out of the refrigerator.
Alan, I think we're going to have to do a rating system on your jokes and take a poll on how many rotten tomatoes it's worth.
No, since most of his jokes are with bars, we'll give him how many bowls of peanuts he gets on the bar.
Yeah. I don't think our speaker's not on yet, is he, Steve?
No, I haven't seen him.
Interesting thing about the speaker, he posted an anecdote on next door neighbor, and that he took his mother to get a shot at the Stamford Hospital, and he didn't have a wheelchair with him. And with all the long walk from the parking lot to the hospital, and then within the hospital to get her shot, he should have borrowed a wheelchair to do it. So he didn't follow his own advice of the thing. And he recommends that other people taking their elderly parents to the hospital use the library that he's going to talk about. So it was kind of an interesting anecdote.
Mhm.
Well, if we're just waiting here, I read a very amusing anecdote yesterday. I don't know if I'd call it a joke. Read this in Commentary magazine. Apparently, it must have been about 80 years ago, the composer George Gershwin was with his wife and another couple, and they wanted to go out to Sardi's restaurant, and Gershwin calls up and he gets the maitre d', and the maitre d' says, "No, you can't call us. We're totally full." So his friend says, "Well, let me give it a try." So the friend goes in the next room, he makes the call, he comes out and he says to Gershwin, "We're all set. We have seats in the middle of the room at 8 p.m. Gershwin says, "Well, how did you do that?" He said, "Easy. I told them I was George Gershwin." It was an article on the nature of fame. Okay.
I think it was Ira Gershwin that happened with. And he said, I told him I was Ira. Ira lived much longer than George, unfortunately. Unfortunately for us.
Bob reminded me a story of regarding Sardi's. Jack Halper and I have been going to Sardi's. I've been going for close to 20 years to a car club meeting that's held there. For those of you that didn't know, Vincent Sardi used to race a Bentley back in the day. But having gone there for 20 years, once a month, you get to know everybody. And one night, this is maybe 5 years ago, because those of you that remember Dom Balducci, Donna's father, when he was a member, we went to see my son, who was a musical director of an off-Broadway play. And after the play, Dom says, "Come on, I'll take you guys to Carmine's." So we go to Carmine's, and there's a 2-hour wait. I said, "Wait a minute, I can get us into Sardi's." So I go down the street, and Giovanni, the maitre d', is there. "Alan, what can I do for you?" I said, "I need a table for 3. He said, "You got it." So meanwhile, there's a line outside of Sardi's also. So he takes us to the second floor, and there's 1 table left, and he sits us down at the table for 3. And those of you that don't know, Sardi's is the restaurant that has all of the caricatures of all the Broadway stars surrounding the whole dining areas. So Dom says to me, "You know, you're such a big shot. Where's your picture on the wall?" And I said, "Well, we're on the second floor. My picture's on the first floor."
Good one.
Our speaker has joined us, or is joining us right now.
Steve, you want to make me co-host on my computer?
I'll try it again. I keep making you co-host, Joe.
Yeah, I know. It was on my iPad.
And I think you keep leaving us. That's what it is.
By the way, I don't know who's introducing Elliot, but he was a neighbor of mine when I lived in Ravona Woods. And before he got into this, when I first met him, he was doing investment work on his own person, from the house. And the next thing I heard about him was he was writing children's books. So this is his 3rd iteration, but it may be more than that. It'd be interesting to ask him his background.
Well, Dick, you just stole my whole bio.
Before we start, Dick, did you try to get some into the Advocate or into Stamford Plus or something, the recent elections with the list of officers that were elected for the new year?
Well, I thought what I'd like to do is instead wait and instead of that, get the information about Bobby Valentine. And maybe I have a name and I'll talk to her about both of them. That's fine.
Yeah, if you would. Thanks, Dave.